here to report one of the first hand. As far as I remember, near 13 years you work in this place, and the most terrible places and situation in Yugoslavia, Rwanda, Egypt, Syria, Gaza, Iraq, Nagorno-Karabakh, and unfortunately Ukraine too. By the way, I know that Itai also has family ties with Ukraine because have some pet people in your family who was born in Ukraine. Yes? Okay. And very important information, our meeting will be held in English, but you will see subtitles on your screen. And we want is that this meeting became a conversation, a dialogue, just it is difficult for somebody ask question. You write me in the chat and we ask Itai. And okay, hi Itai. Unfortunately, we can't hear you. No. We can't hear you, Itai. Problem with voice. Itai, we can't hear you. Voice. You speak without voice.
How about now?
Okay.
Now it's okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Hi. This very interesting our meeting we spent with you, and just it's very difficult to active talk about your painting and easier to show them. I think that will be if we speak about your professional projects, it will be better to see one of them. And I propose our visitors to see video, a documentary video about war in Ukraine, about Donbass. Yes.
Okay. I've been 2 times in Ukraine during the war. The first time I came 3 days before the invasion, and I stayed there for about a month or so in Kiev, Irpin, Bucha, Gorenka, and 1 year later, I've been to Donbass, in Toretsk, in Avdiivka, in Bakhmut. Terrible experience, but as I see it, the most important thing in journalism is to go out to the field and do a field work. I think, unfortunately, in Israel, in most of the world, journalism became more of an opinion. People sitting in the studios and talking about places they never been in, commentating about people they never met. They knock on the tables, they're very decisive, but they're never there. I mean, when I go to Ukraine, when I go to Rwanda, when I go to Iraq, lately to the border with Iran, I don't see the journalist over there. I just see them speaking, without ever being there. So when you show what is happening in Ukraine, people see things differently. And this is what I'm trying to do also as a correspondent. And Israel is quite an issue in Ukraine as well. I remember from the first day of my journalism coverage, people ask me when they realize that I'm an Israeli, like, are you going to help us? I mean, are you, Israel, going to help us? I mean, they had a word that they knew in Hebrew, shalom, And then they said something like, "Nu." "Nu" in Hebrew means, so what the hell is wrong with you? Like, why aren't you doing anything? And I've been asked that in European, in Bucha, and I try to explain all the people that the absolute majority of people, of citizens in Israel, absolutely support Ukraine. But it might be different from our government. Our government, I can say, it is very cynical. And when the Russian invasion came into being, we are confronting in Israel a lot of enemies in Syria, in Lebanon, in Iraq, from Yemen, from all over. And the biggest threat is from Iran. Iran does not have a border with Israel, but it provides all the weapons to southern Lebanon to an organization called Hezbollah. And these weapons from Iran all the way to southern Lebanon are moving through Syria. And the big man in Syria at that time was Vladimir Putin. So we, Israelis, if we wanted to do something in Syria, the government had to notify Putin. So the reason was, we don't want to make Putin angry, so we will not help Ukraine. And again, that was the consideration of the Israeli government. It was not the consideration of the Israeli people. The Israeli people, I remember a very, very, very big demonstration in my city, Tel Aviv, in Jerusalem, and also demonstration against our government. I think it took some time to our government to understand what's going on. And when I mean what's going on is that one of the biggest enemies of Ukraine in this war are the drones made by Iran and being used by Russia. So the fact that Iran is working with Russia, it means that there is a cooperation between the army of Iran and the army of Russia. And if Iran providing something to the Russians, the Russian will give them something in return. So as an Israeli, you can just imagine, okay, what would it be? The Russian would approach the Iranian and say, who are your enemies? What do you need to do? And Russia is actually becoming very hostile towards the state of Israel. So I think by that moment, aid came from Israel to Ukraine, but mostly under the radar. Again, in order not to make Putin very angry. But I remember the first time that I've been to Zelensky's bunker office. I remember the first time, it was when I've been to Bucha and Irpin after 10 days of the war. And then we got a call from the presidential office saying to us, if you can come 3 o'clock to the presidential office, you will be taken by our cars to a very important meeting. They didn't specify who it is. I mean, at that time, we were not sure that Zelensky even alive. We were not sure if he's in Ukraine or maybe he ran away. There was a lot of rumors back then. And then we were taken by cars and we were shipped inside a place in order to, not to have any orientation. It was like very dark corridors. And then inside a hall, all of a sudden the lights come out and we see Zelensky. And for me, it was very emotional to see that he's alive. And for me, as an Israeli, it was an opportunity to ask him question. And don't forget, Zelensky is Jewish and he belongs to the people in Israel. So the question that I wanted to ask him as a Jewish man, do you have expectations from the Jewish state? And he told me something, and it was broadcast live, to all the world and also to Israel. And it said, thank you for your question. I think it would sound a little bit humiliating, but I have to tell you, because this is the truth. And then he talked about the meaning of friendship. And if there is a friendship, and I thought that Ukraine and Israel have a nice friendship, it is being tested in the most difficult times. And now it is difficult times for Ukraine. And where are you Israelis? he then referred to a lot of Israelis who came to Jerusalem, one of the holiest places for Jewish people in Jerusalem, called the Wall of Lamentation, the Western Wall. It was the holy temple of the Jewish people. It was destroyed and only one wall exists. So a lot of people, when they have something important to pray for, they come to the wall. And then came hundreds of people covered with the Ukrainian flag to the wall. And he mentioned this. So he actually said what I told you in the first sentence. Like, he admired the Israeli people. He loved the Israeli people, but he's very much disappointed from the Israeli government. And so I am, by the way. But later on in Donbass, you know, there was a very fierce fighting. You know what happened in Toretsk, you know what happened in Bakhmut. But I think, Natalia, it would be very interesting if we will see some of the conversation I had with the officers, because one of them, Mikola, he had a great, great knowledge about Israel and about the wars that Israel had to fight in its short history. And he mentioned, for example, Yom Kippur War. Yom Kippur in 1973 was a time when Israel was completely surprised by Arab countries, and it was a very, very difficult moment, like traumatic moment for our nation. And you know, I told him it was 2023, like I think the winter, and I told him, listen, it happened to Israel a long time ago, 50 years ago. Israel will not be surprised again. And I'm supposed to be the expert, you know, I've been covering 30 years of war zone. And a few months later, there was October the 7th, in which from Gaza, a lot of Hamas terrorists infiltrated Israel and killed more than 1,000 people, raped women, kidnapped babies. And I remember all the calls that I got from my Ukrainian friends in the field. Like, imagine they are in Bakhmut, they are in Toretsk, and they are worried about Israel is over there. And they told me, you said that there will be no surprises for Israel, and look what happened. And yeah. And this is, again, coming to journalism again. When you try to become an expert, everybody now is an expert. The real journalism work, the way I see it, is to go to the field, not to predict what is going to happen or not to happen. But when I talk to this Mikola in Toretsk, it is in the pause between the fighting, like all the time is fighting and people are wounded and people are killed, unfortunately. I asked him about Israel, and he mentioned, you know, the relationship between Ukraine and Israel, and then again, the anticipation of Ukrainians for Israel to do something and to help or not to help. So if we can watch it, I think it can give us an idea.
Брейк. Так, це курвятина чи свинина?
Більше зробити.
Приятно, точно?
Більше тут.
Mikola, you've been to Israel.
Yes, of course. It was 10 years ago. I really like this country.
בכל העולם, גם בישראל, מסתכלים על המלחמה באוקראינה ולומדים ממנה. אגב, המלחמות הבאות הצפויות לנו. אבל מתברר שלא מעט קצינים אוקראינים בחנו את מלחמות העבר של ישראל ולמדו ממנה.
Yom Kippur War started on big Israel holiday. And same here in Ukraine. We were just sleeping in our beds and rockets just start coming and destroying everything. And the reason is to destroy Israel people, to destroy Ukrainian people. Same here that you had. Because Israeli people had same situation, they had no choice. They was looking for help around the world. And what world says? From the beginning, they didn't want to help. They didn't want to be involved because it's Soviet Union stays behind Egypt. Same thing. Nobody wants to help us because, oh, Putin is too mad, he can use nuclear weapon. And nobody wants to help. It's very close. It's very close. For me, very similar wars and very similar reasons. And I hope would be similar or the same results.
Шашлик. We must be so strong and we must eat to meat.
Of course, we have hope that Israel will help us, especially now against this Iran, which is again enemy of Israel, Iran's drones. We expected this help. We hoped for this help. But to say that somebody owed something to us, it will not be honest. But if you want to be a 21st century's people, man, human, you have to have this humanity. You have to help. That's why we're hoping that Israel will help us.
מבחינת פוטין, המחוז הזה, דונייצק, שייך לרוסיה. למעשה הוא כבר סיפח אותו, יחד עם עוד 3 מחוזות אוקראינים. כלומר, כשאני נמצא פה, כשאנחנו פה, מבחינת פוטין, אנחנו ברוסיה. כמובן שאף אוקראיני לא יקבל את זה.
זה буде Україна.
How do you say how are you?
How are you in Ukrainian? Yeah?
How are you is not как дела?
It's not как дела. Как дела? This is Russian language. We don't use Russian. We know Russian because we must and need to understand language of our enemy. We are speak only українською.
But before the war, you
I'm
spoke Russian.
speak. It's so sad what I used Russian word and Russian language.
Yeah.
It's
And most of
so
Ukraine-
sad for me.
Most Ukrainians are like this.
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
forget about the Russian and now speak mainly.
I disagree with you.
Why?
I disagree because if, for example, in 1939, yeah, the second main war started. So what can we do? We cancel Deutsch language or what? What? So it's not a problem with language. Language is not a problem. Ukrainian language and Russian language is our language too. It's not their language.
Ти загнувся. Okay, finishing.
Okay, so how do you say how
I'm
are you?
idealist.
How are you in Ukrainian?
Як справа?
Як справа?
Все добре, I'm fine. Оце ти загнув, Жека.
Чого?
Взагалі, якщо б так, то була склавінська мова, слов'янська, а кацапська
Yeah. For me, it was very interesting, the conversation, like if to erase Russia completely from the language, from the culture, from the books, disregard Russian authors, Russian painters, Russian musicians, and I really enjoyed, them having different opinions. I like it. Everyone can think whatever he thinks, but unfortunately, this guy that you heard, his name is Dodge. He was killed 2 weeks after I had been there. It was very, very sad for me because in my documentary, you saw only 5 minutes, but he's performing quite a lot. I've been quite a lot with him. He's an amazing guy, originally from Sumy, and I'm in touch with his mother now and his family, because it just happened that I managed to film his last weeks of his life, and for her to see him, to hear him. He was a very interesting man. He was a very intelligent man, and he was also philosophical. He told me, because we were in a place that a lot of people got hit and injured and killed, and unfortunately, for now, 5 people that I filmed with my camera in Ukraine already were killed. Also, a nurse in the hospital of Bakhmut, Yana. Her nickname was Yara. I made an interview with her by the hospital in an ambulance when she came with injured people from Bakhmut, from the front. And she was killed exactly in the same place, few weeks later. It's very difficult. It is very sad. And I keep in touch with these people all the time. I keep in touch with these people, and I hope that my reports help. I know that they did. Make Israelis think again, and some of them, to act differently after they saw my documentaries.
And film, you also made a wonderful film, documentary film, and this film is, as far as I know, nominated for Emmy and won an award of the Doc Aviv International Documentary Film Festival. Yes.
Yeah, one of my film about Ukraine was nominated for the Emmy Award. It was not this one from Donbass, it was the one from the invasion. And in the invasion, I think it is very important also for journalism. We didn't know exactly what is happening, but I think it is same like the Ukrainians. It was a lot of surprises coming at once. I remember that I arrived in Kiev 3 days before the invasion, and we were in Kiev, and we went to eat dinner. We ate pizza, and we met some Ukrainian friends, and they told us, you didn't have to come here. There will not be a war. Putin will never do it. There will not be a war. And then they took glasses of beer, and they laughed at me and my friends. Let's drink to the war correspondents who came to cover the peace. It was funny. And I thought, yeah, there will not be a war because they know better. And in the night, few hours later, everything began. So it is a documentary that takes us by surprise. We do not know where to go. Normally in a documentary, you make a research, you know that you're going to make an interview with this guy, you know that you're going over to this place. We didn't know anything. So I think that the atmosphere and the ambient of what the hell is going on, and life is in big question mark, and maybe Ukraine will cease to exist because all the intelligence in UK, in America, and in Israel said that Ukraine had only 3 days to live. And then we're going to Irpin, and then we're going to Bucha, and then we're going to Borenka, and all of a sudden we go to Zelensky, and then, so we are bumped, from everywhere, and almost being hit. And so you got, the feeling of the war, how everything is like a matter of luck and a matter of chance, and you do not have a lot of planning to do as a journalist, but go with the flow. And sometimes this is what you have to do. You learn in journalism how to do research, how to do, to go in depth, but somehow in very historic, dramatic times, you just need to be there and not know anything, but to document. Later on, you will realize that you maybe were documenting historical moment. I didn't know it, when I've been to Irpin and Bucha. I was not aware. But later on, it became like historic place. This was where the Russian soldiers made a massacre before they leave. And this is also the place where the big Russian convoy, actually lost the war. It was stopped, and they made a U-turn in the same streets where I had been. So, we didn't know anything about it. So part of journalism is just to be there and document, and it will become history.
During your journalistic career, you arrived in many hot spots. Maybe you can tell us what similarities did you see in your career as war correspondent in various hotspots? Maybe some similarity details, or some.
I just came back from the border of Iran. I've been to the border between Iraq and Iran, and I made a documentary about Iranian women fighting against the Iranian regime. They are in the snowy mountains on the border of Iraq and Iran, and their commander is a woman. Her name is Peyman, and she's in a cave. They have a lot of caves, dug inside those hills. And as a journalist, it is something that I've been dreaming of. Also, as an Israeli, we would like the regime in Iran to go down. And I could never access this. I tried a few times before, and the guys from this resistance told me, listen, the Iranians are bombing our caves and our mountains. It will be very difficult for you. We don't want to take any responsibility. Then they explained to me that, a lot of Iranian agents are in the hills. You might be kidnapped, and we don't want to take responsibility for you. And now, because there was something happening in Iran, demonstration that are gaining power, they said, okay, no matter what, you can come over. So we took a risk. And to your question, as a journalist, I think you need some time to take risk. Some of the journalists don't like to do it. It's okay. I mean, you don't have to go and to risk your life. And you can sit in the studio and talk, and you can decide. But I think that if you document history, sometimes history is dangerous. I learned from World War II, thanks to some journalists and photographers that were very, very brave to go inside. As a Jewish man, I lost 7 members of my family. They were burned in Auschwitz death camp. So for me, when I saw the photos from Auschwitz concentration camp, it helped to shape my entity, to know who I am. And I need to thank these people who made this documentation. These people didn't say, no, this is too dangerous, I cannot go there. This is something too difficult for me to see and to absorb, so I will not go to Auschwitz. They went there. So I feel myself that I need to do it. I mean, you mentioned that I have some roots in the Soviet Union and Ukraine. My grandfather, he came from a very small village in Ukraine called Monastirish. It's south of Kharkiv, south of Uman, actually. And of course, as Jewish people, we thought what Ukrainians did in the war. Some of the Ukrainians cooperated with the Nazis. But he said, other Ukrainians helped Jews. Some of my family actually are alive because righteous of nation, Ukrainians saved their life. And my grandfather told me, don't believe people who tell you this is completely bad and this is completely wrong. You have to analyze everything when you see it. If someone is telling you, 50 years ago, this side was bad, so it's bad forever, don't take it. If you really want to see what is going on, you should go there. And actually, it was like the sentence that influenced me the most. If you want to know things, don't try to think that, this happened 50 years ago, 20 years ago, so it's the same. Go and see what is going on. It is your duty and your responsibility to understand. And even if things are very dangerous, he told me something in the Russian language, forgive my accent, he said, Глаза боятся, руки делают. Like, the eyes are afraid, but the hands are doing. And I think it was the most important sentence that I heard in my life as a human being and as a journalist. Because normally I would say, no, I will never go to Iraq on the border of Iran. I will never go to Donbass. No, I will never go to Rwanda, to Congo, to all those crazy places that I've been. But other than that, I have an opportunity to be a journalist and to cover the most dramatic events like happening in my lifetime. And one more thing, I mean, you guys are young people. So this kind of job can be done, not if you are too old, like I'm becoming one. I'm 57 now. But I think there is a period of time in your life when you are physically strong enough and mentally strong enough to do this. Like for me, as a journalist, if you people in Ukraine are suffering and are being fired upon, and you sleep without electricity and without heating, so I'm, as a journalist, I cannot say like, no, I cannot spend like one night without eating, and I cannot spend one night without eating very well, so I will not go to Ukraine. You can say it, but you shouldn't be a journalist. If you're a journalist, you have to take risk, you have to sacrifice, you have to really show what is going on, even if it is unpleasant. Unfortunately, most of the journalists now feel very pleasant to sit in studios and to analyze places. And I think it is a very big problem in journalism now.
Okay, this project, we talk about propaganda because it's very important material for journalists, bloggers, and for everyone who spends some time with any kind of information. And in your opinion, what is the difference between propaganda in Ukraine and in Israel?
And in Israel, I think I never been at a war in which there was no propaganda. Propaganda is the part of war. And I think this is why it is so important for you as a journalist to go there, to go and to see if these things that are being said are for real or it's completely bullshit. And then you realize if it is completely bullshit only when you go to the field. I mean, because if you hear people, and people are lying all the time. You know, I told you about my roots from Ukraine, and everybody hate Putin except one family member. His name is Roman, and he told me, listen, Putin is doing a very important job. He is fighting against the Nazis in Kiev. In Kiev, they have a lot of flags with swastikas. And I told him, Roman, it's bullshit, man. I've been there. It's not the case. You know, the Russians now are the Volgas, the Russia are the aggressor. They're killing people, they're butchering people, the murder. We got to be for the Ukrainians now. And he said to me, no, you are very young, you are very naive, you don't understand. I saw on television, Russian television, he saw like swastikas. And I tried to explain to him, listen, this is a pure propaganda. And then my mother, you know, come in front of my face and she said, like, stop it, there is no use. This guy is a very old man. He used to watch only the Russian television. He believes everything is being told, and he's not like, he cannot open up to new ideas. So it is a Russian propaganda that helps. And listen, I'm in Israel, and sometimes in Israel you hear propaganda from our prime minister, a lot of lies you hear from our prime minister and from our government, and we have to be there and note, you know, this is the thing that you're saying are not true. You're lying. And also in Ukraine. I mean, on the one hand, you have Zelensky, and I adore Zelensky, but other than that, you know, then you see things that you don't like too much. Like, for example, I had like the feeling that he wouldn't like to be number 2 in rating, in being the most popular man in Ukraine. So, for example, if someone is like Zaluzhny, so Zaluzhny should be in London or in some other place. And when I've been to Ukraine, I met a lot of people from the different office. So I thought I saw a few things, you know, that reminded me of the state of Israel, of my country. So it is happening everywhere. But what I like about Ukraine is the thing that you can say it, and you can talk about it, and you can criticize Zelensky, and you can say the sentence that I've said. I mean, if you say it in Russia, you know, you are dead. If you will say it in Turkey, big chance that you will be hit or get into prison. In North Korea, you will burn alive. In Iraq. So this is like, for me, the big hope for Ukraine. The fact that you can talk, and the fact that you criticize, and the fact that you realize what propaganda is. I mean, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union, so you are expert in realizing what propaganda is. Soviet Union was built on a lot of propaganda. But I would mention also something else, Natalia. I know that situation in Ukraine is so difficult, and sometimes it feels hopeless. But the story of Ukraine is not exactly the story of Israel, but there are some similarities. Like I remember the first days of the war, like when you had no weapons. I remember in Donbass, you were provided with weapons, but not enough. I remember that we saw like we were bombed by Russian artillery and we located, where they are. And we wanted to shoot him with Grad missiles. You will be able to send the students my documentary and they will see it in their own eyes. But we had to fire 30 Grads, but we ate only 8. You're not allowed to fire more. And then when I told you October the 7th happened in Israel, we had a lot of weapons and we fired a lot on Gaza. You can say that there is a problem with that. And I agree, by the way. I agree. But, a lot of Ukrainian soldiers said to me, wow, you are shooting so much, not as a criticism, but like in jealousy. Like you have so much firepower and you have so much ammunition. And then something happened, which reminds me of the state of Israel. Because in the state of Israel, when we began, nobody wanted to help us. And we were few against many. And we didn't have enough weapons. So we needed to think. When you have to think, when you have no choice but to trust only yourself, because you cannot trust Trump. On one day you can trust him, on one day he's losing his mind completely. On one day he's falling in love with Putin, on one day he's falling in love with Orban or with a North Korean guy. You cannot trust anyone, and you cannot trust Israel. You can trust Israelis, but you cannot trust the state of Israel. So you have to work and you have to think for yourself and you have to invent and you have to initiate. And what I see now is a lot of this process going on in Ukraine. I mean, now everything is focused on the war. Like you have to invent new weapons, new drones to build it yourself. Now, Israel used to sell technology to Ukraine, and now Ukrainians are helping Israelis to understand how to fight against the drones, against suicide drones. It's amazing. This is why you became so like hardworking, thinking people, and you're very hardworking people and very intelligent. I think Israel became, Israel is a startup nation. Israel became, or even now, like the most sophisticated technology and startup all over. And it happened because of this situation, that we needed to invent things in order not to be demolished, not to be annihilated. We needed, so first, all the great brains were brought to the army. You have to develop something against missiles that are being shot at Israel. And then we develop, the thing that is intercepting it in the sky. We develop a lot of the lasers. We develop a lot of the drones because we had no choice. And now, after these people who invented the drones and the device to intercept missiles, then they can invent other things. And then we become like a great power in technology. So my hope for the Ukraine is this is where you're going. I mean, Russia is going down. They will spend all the money and all the manpower in order to kill you, and they will kill a lot of Ukrainians, and they will not care if 1 more million of Russians will be killed. It's not a consideration, but you gain something. It is a very, very painful thing to go through, but a lot of things are being acquired. I mean, you know how to work, you know how to invent, you know that you have no choice, and you know that if you're not doing it, you can die. And this is what happened to the Jewish people. They realize that if we are not doing it ourselves, we will die. So on the one hand, it's very cruel to hear that because the situation is so bad in your place, it is also an advantage, but it is. And maybe it is difficult to see it now, but I really hope for a great Ukrainian future, and I believe it. And as a journalist, I very much hope to come to Ukraine, to the post-war. I just had a conversation with my friends in Donbass, and some of them are hopeful. Some of them are not hopeful. They said that it will be going on for years and you will be invited here to come again. But I know, and we are here in Israel now. You see this room, this is a protected room because in every house in Israel, and this is something that we learn because of war, like what you are learning now. When we are being shot at, so you're going to the safe room, this is a safe room, and all the house can be demolished, but this room will be safe. So I come here with my wife and my kid, we knock the door is like iron door, and there is iron behind the walls, and this is my room that I speak to you. So we think that it might be again a war with Iran again. We will be attacked. My city, Tel Aviv, will be attacked again. By the way, the house of my parents was knocked down. My parents are alive, but it was hit. So this is something that we invented because we realized that, yeah, maybe we will have to live like that for the rest of our life, but we can do other things as well.
Name the top 5 leaders you would be interested in interviewing. Maybe Putin, maybe other provocated person.
Again?
Name the top 5 leaders you would be interested in interviewing.
I don't want to disappoint you, but I'm not too much interested to make an interview with world leaders. It is because your last question about propaganda. Every world leader is being told by his advisors what to say and what not to say. So it's like talking to a machine. I would rather talk to people on the street. I would rather talk to resistance, to soldiers, to women, to men, to kids, because they are for real. They are real people. But you know, I'm talking to our Prime Minister Netanyahu. I don't believe a word he's saying. I mean, I will talk to Trump. Okay, it's a nice headline, you know, Donald Trump gives me a personal interview, but I can tell you now what he will say. And let's be frank, you know, an interview with Putin, as a headline, it's wow, he has an interview with Putin. But what do you expect from this interview? I mean, he's covered by his advisors and everything, like his answered ready from the beginning what to say. And I think Zelensky as well. You know, I met him, I was like astonished that I would speak to him. But now, by the way, I don't blame him. He has to do it. He has to keep on persuading the world that it needs to help Ukraine, because otherwise, you know, Ukraine will cease to exist. So to your question, back in the time, it was like the peak of my career to make an interview with world leaders. And I had some interviews with them and I thought, wow, it's amazing. But when you go into documentaries, like if you will watch my documentaries from Kiev, Bucha, Irpin, and from Donbass, these are the really interesting people. These are the really interesting people. And if you are coming to Israel, there are much more interesting things to do than to talk to the Israeli ministers or to the Israeli prime minister. The Israeli society is so interesting, it's so mixed, it's so complicated, you know, people are intelligent and interesting for the good and for the bad. So I don't wish to have the list of the world leaders now, because it will not be interesting and surprising, if you understand what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
May I ask you a very private question? I know that you're a father and you have a son. And when your son became in some ages and tell you, Father, I would like to be like you, journalist, documentary journalist. What's your feeling about this?
No way, son. No way. I will punch you. I hope not. I think that everyone should do something of his own. Like, I wouldn't like to think of him doing the things that I do, like to take risks. And of course, you know, I think about my mother and my father, and especially about my wife. I wouldn't do it if my wife would not agree that I will do it. You know, she knew who she's getting married to. And she understands what I told you, how important it feels for me and how important it is as a journalist to do it. But I think enough is one man in one generation. He can play basketball.
It's kind of for our conversation, but now I ask our visitors, our students, maybe anybody have a few questions for you. Шановні наші учасники, якщо у когось є запитання до Ітаю, давайте ми можемо їх задати. Хто хоче, може самостійно підняти ручку задати, хто ні, може написати в чат, і ми вам озвучимо. Так. Ага. Так, пані Тетяна. Будь ласка.
Hello. Itai, thank you for your time for us. I would like to ask you, what should we do with a lot of AI videos, photos, false information that we are spreading through all the social media? Because I think in 5 years, our critical thinking will be not enough. Thank you.
Wow, you are hitting on something that is a big, big problem, and I'm very much worried about it, you know. Unfortunately, now I do not have any question, but I do not have any answer, but only question like the one you asked, you know. Think about it, Tatiana. Like, I've been to Donbass, and you can watch my film and you can say, wow, your film was beautiful. Or you can watch my film and you can say, I watched your film, I didn't like it, it was a bad film. But you know that I've been in Donbass. You will not say he's never been there. But from now on, like a few months from now, you can see some journalist, whatever he called himself or she called herself, walking in Donbass, punching Putin in the face. It will be filmed even better than my camera. And you don't know if it happened or didn't happen. So your question is something that I think about a lot, you know, like, how can I trust it? How can I trust anything? And even before the AI, you know, becoming even involved in documentary, like we mentioned propaganda and we mentioned social networks, some people are locked by this. And my answer, the thing that I can answer you, is very sad. You can't do anything about it. Like when I told you about this old relative of mine, Roman, that he thought that there are swastikas in Kiev, but he was too old to open up to everything. But a lot of young people, like look at young students in Columbia University, in Oxford University, they're supposed to be the top, but some of them are like so narrow-minded, like they are looking for some kind of reality that fits them, and never something that is happening will change their mind. So they got like channels, what to see, channels, which a lot of them are complete false, but this is what's gaining the truth. So I will be very honest with you. I'm very happy that I did this work of journalism for the past 30 years, since 1992. For me, if I'm start now, like you, I think it would be very difficult. But what you need to do is to gain the trust of the people, because trust will be the most precious commodity. Think about it. This is why you asked me this question about the social networks lying and you don't know who to believe. Because like, who should I trust? It will remain a question. You will not be able to solve it. And I'm very much afraid of this world, you know. Like a lot of people believe that Ukraine is the aggressor and Putin is the victim. and you cannot do anything with it, really. I mean, first of all, you try to persuade, you try to show them like documentaries, like my documentaries, but some people have in mind whatever they want and they will not change it. So I think as a journalist, you should gain the trust of the people. Not to scream too much, not to be in the studio and pretend that you know everything, but to work hard and to work in the field and to be humble. This is a beginning. And but it is very difficult. Like for me, I know that because people know me, but I'm speaking after 30 years of work, so I make and I influence a lot. It's like the most popular channel in Israel. It has a lot of ratings, and we have a very good name. Again, sometimes the prime minister would like to shut our channel because what we are saying, but people know that we are serious, and this is what I think you have to gain.
Thank you.
Thank you, Itai. And I have the next question, Maria Sira.
Кен, шалом. Я перепрошую, ви не проти, якщо задам питання на івриті?
Itai, in English, okay?
And then we will translate it. Okay.
אין בעיה. שלום, אני מריה. יש לי שאלה, האם יש לך אתר משלך או שערוץ ביוטיוב איפה שאפשר לראות את הסרטים שלך?
The question was if I have a site like of my own or a YouTube channel of my own in which you can see my work. Unfortunately, I do not have because I'm a little bit lazy and I didn't care. I didn't take care for doing it. But if you would like to see, no problem. I can send Natalia email with a lot of links to my work, like to 10 or 20 works. So it is Ukraine, it is Iran, it is Syria, it is Iraq, it is Gaza, it is whatever, like also with English subtitles I have. But unfortunately, I didn't make any site. I'm very angry for myself about it. Every year I say, now this is the thing that I will do it. And now something begin and it takes all my attention and I forgot to do it. But I'm not proud of not doing it. I should have it. But Natalia, I will send it to you and you can send to the students. So I would love to, yeah.
Okay. And next question, Roxolana.
Yes, thank you. I've been waiting for this question for a long time, but I'm still staying with this. Thank you. And I have a remarkable question because it's very important to me, like cultural researcher and student who study cultural anthropology at Kyiv National University. Do you believe that documentary still has the power to remarkably change the public policy, or its role now primarily to preserve historical memory? For example, I read materials before these meetings about your jobs in Iraq and Iran, and I want to know, you've spent time with Kurdish female fighters. What did the experience teach you about the role of women in modern liberation movements? Or it's a part of them fight for freedom, or maybe it's a part of them national identity of this. Like documentary was like instrument for remarkable history.
Okay, so these are two questions. The first one, the role of documentary and if documentary help to affect or like preserve the memory of our time. I have some experience, of how documentary can help. Like, some time ago, 20 years ago almost, I made a series of reports from Democratic Republic of Congo. There is an awful civil war over there. Most of the people don't know anything about it. More than 5.5 million people were killed. And there is a horrifying phenomena of systematic raping of women. And I did 3 reports about the systematic raping of women. And it made so much effect in Israel. So later on, there was a rock concert in Israel. And a a lot of the best Israeli musicians came, like for free to perform, and all the money was collected and people donate money, to a project to help the raped women. And then I left my work for 1 year, and with the best Israeli gynecologists, like about 10 of them, we went over to the villages in Congo and helped, treat and analyze these women. And I think it was the thing that I was proud the most in my job. So it's not that it cannot happen now. It can happen now. But I think people are becoming more like Teflon, like they have too many atrocities in front of their faces, and they cannot relate to it as they used to be. Maybe it's not fair what I'm saying, but like think about 20 years ago, you're very young, so you were a girl, but it was very, very rare to see something bad happening on the screen. And you will never see someone shooting another one and someone collapse and killed on your screen. It would be so rare and so crazy. Now you see it like every minute. So every minute you see killing, you see massacre, you can see rape, horrible things. So when I did it 20 years ago, it had a great effect. Now, I'm not sure. Again, I know that, my work is helping. I know about 3 people that volunteered to go to Ukraine to fight from Israel after they saw one of my reports. So it can help, and you should still believe in it. How can I say, after 33 years of work, that it is not helping? Because this is what gives me a lot of incentive to do it. And you were talking about my last work with the women fighters. It is an amazing thing. I will explain to those people, the idea. Like in Syria and in Iraq and in Turkey and in Iran live also Kurdish people. Now, Kurdish people are the biggest nation on earth, like 40 million people, and they do not have a state. Some of them in Iraq being deprived, some of them in Syria, some of them in Turkey, and some of them in Iran. And I have good connection with them, and they are fighting. They are absolutely glaza bayatza ruki gelayut. And this is like women power that you do not have even in Scandinavia. Because when this guerrilla force was formed in 1978 by someone called Abdullah Öcalan, he said, women and men are completely equal. I mean, for us, it sounds like evident. Of course, it is equal. But back then, and if you will watch the map, these places are very chauvinistic, patriarchal. And he said, hey, guys, you should learn how to cook in the kitchen, because the women do not have time to cook. They need to lead us and they need to command the army. And it is amazing. These women are fighting, and you can see men like male. I remember before one of the battle against ISIS, and I asked a Kurdish man, like Kurdish macho man, and he's saying to me that he is hoping that in the next fight, in the next battle, this woman will be the commander because she is the greatest fighter. And he's saying it not because like he's a feminist or he's trying to be politically correct or polite. He really believes in it. So this society acquired something completely amazing. And you ask why the women are taking part in it. I found 2 separate, very interesting reasons. One of them, they are patriotic Kurds. They are being deprived in Iran. So they run away from Iran to northern Iraq through the mountains. They take off their hijab and they take rifles and they want to fight the Iranian regime. So this is because, they want to help the Kurdish nation that the Iranians are killing and depriving of. But another reason is because of feminist reason. Because I told you how like the women are completely equal in the guerrilla, in the army, in the mountains, in the forests, in the caves, but they are not equal in the house. Like in the house, the father can still be a very conservative guy, and for him, like a daughter is like a dust. Who is she to think for herself? And he would relate to her as an inferior creature. Sorry to speak like this, but this is how some people think. And then the daughter is running away from the house because she doesn't want to live like that. And she finds her freedom in the army, in the guerrilla. It's crazy. Like you find, and this is why the chant is Jin Jian Azadi. Like Jin Jian Azadi means women, life, freedom. And they find it in the guerrilla force. So it is very, very interesting for me. And, also in Israel, every woman has to go to the army. The men have to go for at least 3 years, the woman at least for 2 years. There is only one group, ultra-Orthodox, now that don't go to the army, but this is for another Zoom conversation. So it is a lot of inspiration, the Kurdish women, in order for some Israelis to understand that woman can do everything. Because we were on the way for woman can do everything, but we have ultra-Orthodox religious society who still think that woman cannot do anything. And woman should be subject to very limited opportunities. So, some people are laughing at me in Israel. You think that you are brave to go to the border of Iran? Go to Bnei Brak. It's a city of a lot of ultra-Orthodox religious people and they beating women. Go there if you have guts. This is what I told you about Israel. You have a lot of different groups in the society. Sometimes we have a very cynic joke. If we didn't have enemy around us, we would fight ourselves in a civil war. This is what Jewish people are about. You have 2 Jewish people, you have 3 thoughts. Everybody thinking differently. And this is Jewish humor, It doesn't have to be very funny, but it is Jewish humor.
Thank you. It's a very important point for me because I have a lot of friends for Kurdish people. My first one was Ramil. She was my teacher of culture. I remember the year it was 2024, and that first I worked in the materials for Kurdish people, and I know a point in social media like Russia or another propaganda sites. Information about Kurdish people use like more terroristic or more danger or maybe something wrong, movements for liberation. And Ramil was my first teacher who told me that they have a great opportunity for fighting for freedom. And it's very important because documentary materials or journalism practice in Russian media for about Kurdish people using like propaganda instrument to describe this nation like something wrong.
Yeah, but this is propaganda. I would send to Natalia my documentaries. The one that I made in Iran, now it's only in Hebrew, so I think within a week or so I will have it also with English, but all the rest things about the Kurd, I have few documentaries about them in Iraq and Syria. They actually managed to beat ISIS. So it is an amazing phenomenon, and you will be able to see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Roxolana, and thank you, Itai. Wonderful meeting. We discussed very important points about truth, about how spend this truth, what is propaganda, why. Oh, we have the last question. Tatiana brings up.
Yes, I have one more question. If we are talking about attitude of other countries to Ukraine during the war and attitude other countries to Israel during the war, it's different because we are in the victim position, something like that, because we are smaller, we have less weapons, we have less resources. But when Israel is attacked by by his neighbors, Israel responds very quick and very tough. It's right, but a lot of countries criticize Israel for that, and there is an impression that it's not profitable to look strong. It's more profitable to look like a victim And then Ukraine became to show its subjectivity for the world. We are criticized by them. What do you think about it?
Very interesting. I'll tell you what I think. It is so interesting because, now Israel is being hated so much. I never remember in my lifetime, I'm 57 years old, Israel being hated so much all over the world. Some people can understand Israel, but like the people who hate Israel, countries, campuses, students, all over, some of it for a reason and some of it like completely false, but never did I feel anything like it. So you can say, wow, it's better to be a victim. And sometimes, after the Holocaust, we were the most lovable nation in the world. So people love you when you are being killed and miserable. But when you say, should I be poor for the love of the people? It brings you another question. Is this the most important thing in my life? Like to be loved by the most countries, by the most nations? Because for me, in the past 2 years, I'm a very open man. I'm traveling all over the world. I like the world. And for me, it is very interesting to cover the world. And it is very interesting to me what other people think about my country as well. But in the past 2 years, I said, okay, like I became like Jewish from the ghetto, unfortunately. Like, I'm in a place that the people are against me. It is very difficult to live like that. In psychology, you describe the 5 phases of grief. First of all, you're surprised. No, it cannot be. Then you become very angry. Then you deny it. No, we don't do these things. Then you become depressed. And then okay, that's life. Okay, so I'm here and you're there. But very important thing that you have to remember for us, like Middle Eastern. Israel is in the Middle East. So you have a calculation. If you act like Israel is doing, and as you say very correctly, Israel responds immediately with crazy force. So it makes the Western world hate you, but you gain respect in your own neighborhood, which is the Middle East. Respect, not love. These are enemies. And then you make like the balance. What is more important to me? Because there are 2 spheres. The Western world, and we tend to think of ourselves as Westerners, Israel, and we have our neighborhood, the Middle East, enemies all around us. And it is important for us that the enemies around us will know that we are crazy. Like if you try to mess with us, we are completely crazy. Like we say in Hebrew, En Elohim, no God. If you mess with us, we will kick you completely. Because until 2 years ago, people thought that Israel, we can hurt them and they will never go to war because Israelis are very afraid of their soldiers dying. And by the way, there was something about it. Like we tried not to go to war, but when there was no choice for war, so all the way we are going. And then, you're right, you lose your popularity with the West. The West hates us. And it is very painful for me, but for other people in Israel, I don't care about the world anymore. We have text in the Bible that talk about like, forget the world and it doesn't matter the world. Even the founder of the state of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister, said, it doesn't matter what the people outside of Israel will do. It matters only what we will do. This is like how you do things for yourself. And I really hope that something will change, because I don't like to be, in Israel now, a lot of people are trying to have a different passport, like trying to gain Portuguese passport, German passport, Spanish passport, whatever passport they can, because they want to travel the world and not to present themselves as Israelis. Can you understand? It reached even that point. And quite a big number of Israelis left Israel because life in here became very difficult. But again, they will have propaganda of the government and they will say that no one leave Israel and no one has done it. So the calculation is, okay, we will not be nice people, but in the neighborhood, people will understand us and they will not mess with us again. It's worth the price. this is what our government is saying, and this is not exactly what the overall public agrees for, but I think more and more people are agreeing, that this is the idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say to you, thank you, guys, for your patience and for your interest. And I really wish you from the bottom of my heart 2 things. First, for Ukraine to go over this awful war and to gain its freedom and peace. And for me, it will be great to come over and to see you also at times of peace. And for you as journalists, this is your time. This is your time, and for the good and for the bad, you live in very, very dramatic times. So this is time to hit the road and do it. And thank you for your time again.
Thank you, Itai. Thanks today in our international project understand the truth. And we have very interesting conversation with with one of the most famous in the world, military journalist, Itai Eнгель.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will send you, Natalia, the email.
Thank you a lot. Thanks. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.